whomever you love, we welcome you. Whomever you love, we welcome you.
Thank you, Hal. Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Kent. I am Reverend Stephen, your minister. Thank you for joining us this morning as we gather virtually once again, a spiritual community seeking to be diverse and inclusive as we inspire love, work for justice, and grow together in community. And once again, welcome. Now, as we prepare for worship, let us take a moment to breathe together, to invite the spirit that is love and life to be present in us and among us, and to know once again we are truly interconnected with one another and all of life. Come, let us worship.
We are the rain and the rainbow. We are the moon and the moon's glow. We are the river and the river's flow as we dance in the circle of life. We are the grass and the green leaves. We are the earth and the earth's seeds. We are the love that the world needs as we dance in the circle of life. We are the rain and the rainbow. We are the moon and the moon's glow. We are the river and the river's flow as we dance in the circle of life. As we dance in the circle of life.
Good morning. Indigenous peoples speak of the spider as a weaver, weaving into existence. Spiders create patterns through webs. Webs are composed of sticky and non-sticky strands. Sticky strands are a part of the design with the potential to trap the unsuspecting getting stuck. One must be aware in creation to not get stuck in the stickiness of their own creation. Non-sticky strands allow the creative spider to move about her creation, building and exploring. Web strands intersecting and creating opportunities for change and movements. The combination of strands create the universal web. Thinking of spider and her web give rise to further examination of the shapes and patterns giving form to our interdependent universe, providing comfort and discomfort. Comfort in the familiar and discomfort at times in an invitation for change. Fractals are a wonder demonstrating both diversity and sameness, offering invigorating possibilities of hope through patterns, imperfect patterns, infinite patterns, patterns giving rise to amazing creations. I imagine each of us is part of that cosmically created web, the lines crossing, zigging and zagging, creating a beautiful pattern that can be supporting or sticky. Intersections offering change and choice. Each movement of the wind and animal, human, institution, and beliefs and values create movement and shape the web. Our movements, thoughts, beliefs, energies, and patterns matter. Intersections are clearly a point of choice. As Unitarian Universalists, respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part reminds us that our choices matter, that the I and the we are one. Today, I invite you to explore the wonders of fractals in the knowledge that we are blessed to be part of the interdependent web.
We join Unitarian Universalists across the country in lighting a chalice, a sign of life's beauty and wonder, a symbol of peace and hope, an invitation to continue our ongoing search for the light of truth within us and among us, and a reminder that we are all interconnected in the great web of existence, of which we are each a beloved part. And now, as I light our shared chalice, I invite you to light your home chalice. Would you join me now in the words for lighting the chalice? May this flame open our eyes to awe and wonder. May this fire kindle our imaginations and our minds. May we see beauty in the world and in each other. May we know that a spark of the infinite glows in our hearts. May this light call us to live with love and reverence for life. Now, in the spirit of universalism, knowing we are all loved, the joys and sorrows of who we really are and our becoming can be expressed and shared. We take time now to call to mind the joys and sorrows that come with living, to hold one another in the spirit of care and compassion, to turn inward for a few moments to connect with the love that is the very heart of life itself, and to reflect on the mysteries of life. I invite you now to use the chat box to share your joys and concerns with one another. Diane Kloss wishes a fourth happy birthday to her grandson, Parker. Rome family. I finally got to give my best friend, Ada, a hug after 11 months of not giving her a hug. Oh, that must have been great. Swanee shares joy for the results of the Georgia election. And Verweeps, blessings for everyone getting the COVID vaccine. Benny shares his concern about the Capitol building riots. We share your concern as well, Benny. Graver Dean family says, we are thinking of our dear friend Dawn, whose dad is in the ICU on a ventilator with COVID. His prognosis is not good. May he know healing and may they know peace in this difficult time. Max and Shayna mourn the loss of Nick Kuchar, a classmate of their daughter Sophie, who died in a car crash Friday night. We send prayers for his family. They may know peace and comfort as they grieve. Kara Kramer shares the joy that her mother is mostly recovered, offers concern for 7 other extended family members with COVID. Vivian Sandland extends an invitation to all of us to come to a peaceful public demonstration this afternoon at 3:30 at the Kent Gazebo. Together, let us defend democracy and oppose domestic terrorism. Reverend Renee will lead us in prayer. Colleen Taylor is wishing for healing for a dear friend, Marianne, who has COVID and is comfortable at home at this time. May that healing be so. May there be healing for everyone who is suffering from COVID. Randy Bish asks healing for Heidi's coworker, Kathy, who is struggling with COVID. Jules C. sends her thanks for the card and prayers and shares she is recovering well from COVID. We are glad to hear that, Jules. Elaine Bowen shares the challenge of our first principle, the inherent worth and dignity of every person. This is a difficult time for us all. Indeed it is. Ginny Horvath shares the joy, however, of our UU community, giving strength and hope. May our time together this morning provide strength, hope, and promise and possibility. Georgia Quinn says, sometimes it is extra hard to live in a house where Fox News is on a TV. With hearts open to these things we have shared with one another, the joys, the concerns we have named, let us enter into a time of silence now for prayer, for reflection, for holding those we've named in our hearts and minds. Time to connect once again with the spirit of love and to remember we are truly interconnected with each other in the spirit of life itself. Let's enter our silence now.
The Fractal Nature of Almost All Things by Gabriel Lipton. Here's a short activity. Take a bowl full of dried rice, or if your environment allows it, sand. Pour it slowly onto the same spot. Watch as it builds into a pyramid. Continue to watch as the sides of that pyramid begin to avalanche. Notice how these avalanches continue to occur at the same frequency while you continue to pour. This frequency is the frequency of something that is alive and growing, gaining matter in a nonlinear, self-repeating way. This is the frequency of a fractal. Or look at a tree. Ideally, if your environment allows, when it is bare. Look at how the trunk leads up to a branch that splits off into more branches, then smaller branches, and finally branches so small that they appear scratches in the sky. This again, in the self-repeating, slightly imperfect pattern of a fractal. The term fractal was coined by Polish-born mathematician Benoit Mandelbrot, rooted in the Latin word fractus, which means broken glass. The reference being to broken lines. In the 1980s, while working at IBM, Mandelbrot arose as a singular pioneer into the fractal universe, publishing the seminal work, The Fractal Geometry of Nature, which laid the mathematical and philosophical foundation for fractal theories that have since been adopted by analysts, scientists, and theoreticians from all disciplines. From art to astrophysics, economics to the natural sciences, social media to medicine, and climatology to human psychology. The most accessible demonstration of Mandelbrot's geometry is the Mandelbrot set, a visual self-repeating pattern that zooms in on itself to the infinite. It's hypnotic and trippy, and as soothing and ruminative as staring up at a clear night sky, or at a lightning storm, or waves or coastlines, cascading waterfalls, a view of endless mountains, a head of radicchio sliced in half, the distribution of galaxies, the lines and veins in the palm of your hand. These are all the self-repeating, nonlinear patterns of fractals. The thing about a fractal is that once you get a sense of what they are, you'll begin recognizing them everywhere. Now let us join together and watch a video about fractals. An excerpt from Emergent Strategy by Adrienne Marie Brown. The patterns of the universe repeat at scale. There is a structural echo that suggests two things. One, that there are shapes and patterns fundamental to our universe. And two, that what we practice at a small scale can reverberate to the largest scale. Change is coming. What do we need to imagine as we prepare for it? What is compelling about surviving climate change? How do we prepare not just for suffering, but for sharing and innovation? How do we prepare the children in our lives to be visionary and to love nature even when the changes are frightening and incomprehensible? How do we experience our beauty and humanity in every condition? When we speak of systemic change, we need to be fractal. Fractals, a way to speak of the patterns we see. Move from the micro to the macro level, we must create patterns that cycle upwards. For successful movements, we need to develop strong, action-oriented communities that understand that their analysis and work cannot be limited to one struggle. Together, we must be advancing the front line of our vision for a sustainable, just world.
To see the world in a grain of sand and a heaven in a wild flower. Hold infinity in the palm of your hand and eternity in an hour. These words of William Blake say to us, open your eyes to the wonder of the world and the presence of eternity right in front of us. You can hold infinity in your hand. Learn of heaven from a wild flower. This image is sand, ordinary river sand, a world in itself. Is it a world you've seen before? I love those moments of discovering a new way to look at the world, to understand my place in it and the opportunity to know how I might live more fully and invite others to do the same. That happened as I began to read Adrienne Marie Brown's book, Emergent Strategy, and discovered the concept of fractals. As I hope you've learned from the readings and the videos, fractals are a way to understand our world and ourselves. The fractal is a theory that the patterns of the universe repeat infinitely and that everything is interconnected. You and I are part of a universe which is part of a universe and on into infinity. There is a universe within us too. Learning about fractals has been a time of awakening, and now I look for them everywhere. My spiritual life has deepened because I have a new way of seeing reality and understanding more fully the truth of our seventh principle, our interconnected web of existence of which we are each a part, and how everything is a part of this web. With fractals, I have been drawn into new wonder and awe that has led me to deeper reverence for life. Richard Rohr speaks of this as a healthy religion, which in giving us reverence helps us find confidence and coherence, a way to make sense of life and to feel at home within ourselves and our world. As we become more connected with the web of existence, hopefully we better understand how our choices, our words, our actions, our lives impact this web for better or for worse, and the power which we each hold. We've witnessed in horror and sadness just this past week how violence can be incited with a tweet or a speech or a Facebook post. We've also witnessed how words and actions of peace and hope can bring people together as they will this afternoon, and how movements are born that change our world. Adrienne Marie Brown tells us that what we do at a small scale reverberates to the largest scale. That's a dandelion. And there's nothing like a dandelion to teach us how something at a small scale reverberates to a large scale. I learned this week that one dandelion produces anywhere from 125 to 300 seeds. Each dandelion with the potential to fill a field or your yard. Each dandelion a world in itself as we look deeper and deeper into it. If you think for a moment about the video we saw earlier in the service, we were taken deeper and deeper into fractal images, moving into infinitely smaller parts within the greater whole. Or were we? That's the paradox of the fractal. Adrienne Marie Brown says that fractals actually move from the micro to the macro level. They begin with the very parts of the atoms of everything and expand outward into infinity. The concept of fractals may seem very abstract and an exercise in imagination, but there is a very practical use for this concept. Fractals are a way to understand that our lives, are made of patterns that repeat, and what these patterns create for good or ill. Fractals lead us into some important questions of existence and reality. What are the repeating patterns in our personal lives that hold us back or help us thrive and live fully? What are the repeating patterns that hold us back as a congregation, and the patterns that will help us live out our mission and vision more fully? What are the repeating patterns that perpetuate white supremacy in our culture, and the patterns that will help us bring about racial justice? What are the repeating patterns of our relationship to the web of all existence and this beautiful, fragile planet that will either bring destruction or help us live in harmony with the earth? Once we understand these patterns, change and creating new patterns is possible. Change is inevitable, one of life's constants. It will happen whether we want it or not. But it sometimes takes a crisis in order to not only see change happening, but embrace it out of necessity, if nothing else. The pandemic, which incidentally is a fractal event in itself, think about how it has spread, has been a powerful reminder of the reality of change and an opportunity to create new patterns. You've done a wonderful job in adapting to the new patterns that we've needed in order to sustain this community, including the use of new technology. And there are more changes coming, opportunities for new patterns that can help us thrive in the years to come. As Hobbs Hall is finished, as we are able to gather in person again at some as yet unknown time, as we are challenged to respond to the world changing so rapidly around us, there will be the need for us to adapt to new ways of being, to create new patterns. Adrienne Marie Brown asks us, what do we need to imagine as we prepare for it? How do we prepare the children in our lives to be visionary and to love nature even when the changes are frightening and incomprehensible? How do we experience our beauty and humanity in every condition? One answer is, what if we take a fractal approach to shaping our future? What if our vision is one of creating patterns that cycle outwards, honoring our universalist belief in a circle of love so large that no one is left out? Patterns of radical hospitality that truly affirm the inherent worth and dignity of every person who comes seeking the gifts we have to share with them. Patterns that affirm wonder and reverence, that honor our essential humanity, our beauty, our hope for life more abundant, more joyful, more inclusive. The only thing holding us back is how much we are willing to adapt to change and create new patterns of being that cycle outward like a fractal. The extent to which we dare to dream of who we can be together as a community, the limit of our imaginations, and what we are willing to give of ourselves in order to make our dreams of the future real. The possibilities are endless.
Our time for all ages this morning is a mashup of a little story that is a traditional Hindu and Buddhist tale. It is called Indra's Net. As Buddha lay dying, his disciples huddled around him. "What will we do without you?" one cried. At this, Buddha lifted his head slightly and said, "It is now time for you to find your own light." These were the last words he ever uttered in his earthly existence. He lay back and slowly his own light faded. His disciples began to look more closely at one another than they had ever before. Meanwhile, Indra, shown on your screen, who was king of the gods, heard that Buddha was beginning his ascent to the heavens, and he began to prepare his palace for the great and honored one, the man who identified himself simply as one who woke up. As splendid as Indra's palace was, the king of the gods wanted it to be even more spectacular. So he gathered together 100 billion trillion jewels, diamonds, sapphires, rubies, pearls, amethysts, emeralds, jade stones, onyx, more than our small human imaginations could ever dream of, until the palace was filled with jewels strung together in a giant, dazzling web with a flashing jewel at each knot. Indra then had this net spread across the ceiling and the walls of the palace, and it created a blaze of dazzling, multicolored light. Buddha indeed arrived as had been promised, and when he entered the great hall of Indra's palace and saw the sparkling net of jewels draped all around him, he marveled at the infinite number and variety of brilliant stones twinkling and creating beautiful light. Then he turned to Indra and said, "This great jeweled web is indeed a wonder. Look at how each flashing jewel holds the reflection of all the other jewels, and every jewel reflects it." Is this not nature of the nature of reality itself, he asked, the assembled gods and goddesses? Are all living things not reflected in the same way as these jewels and connected through the great web of existence? This is the truth I came to the world to discover and to speak. There is no such thing as independent existence. That is an illusion. Only by the interconnection and endless reflection of all things upon each other can life exist. Therefore, you must cherish everything that supports your life, for it is as much a part of you as you are of it. Indra and the multitudes of heavenly beings were filled with joy at Buddha's words, for this was the truth they hoped would somehow penetrate the noisy arguments of human life. Indra wanted to commemorate this moment of Buddha's arriving, and indeed of the truth that Buddha's life represented. So he took the great web of jewels and he spread it over the entire sky, from one end of the galaxy beyond galaxies to the other. And ever since, anyone who looks to the heavens when it is dark in the world can see this great network of light immediately and be reminded that we are each a glittering gift, a glittering jewel in the web of life, and that light is always shining somewhere. You know, this story sounds a lot like our seventh principle, don't you think? You talk about the interconnected web of all existence often. I wonder if you would be willing to go on a short meditation with me. Imagine what this magnificent jeweled net looks like, spread across the vast expanse of space. Now you may close your eyes and focus on an image in your mind, or focus softly on the image on your screen. Move in close to one jewel in the net. Look closely, and you will see that the polished surface of the gem reflects all the other jewels in the net, infinite in number, just as two mirrors placed opposite each other reflect an image ad infinitum. Each jewel reflected in this gem you are gazing into also reflects all the other jewels, so that the process of reflection is itself infinite. Now, if your eyes are closed, open them and know that you, my friend, are a sparkling jewel in Indra's net, as is every person around you. Every jewel is connected with all the other jewels in the net, and every person is intimately connected with all the other persons in the universe. Each has an independent place within the net, and we reflect and influence each other. A change in one jewel or person produces a change, however slight, in every other. You know, this gives me hope. It reminds me that the love that we put out into this world creates waves, creates fractals. I wonder, friends, what simple acts of love will you do in the coming weeks to shine your light that it may reflect on in others to create a better and more just and peaceful world?
One of the acts we can do to create a more just and peaceful world, to honor our interconnectedness with one another and all of life, is to share what we have with others. There is a truth that says, from you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and it is from this we live. In spite of the need for physical distancing, we are strong and thriving as a community and able to be together virtually for worship, for community, for caring one another, because of the gifts of money, time, and care you each so generously give. Thank you. To help others in our community thrive and to honor our interconnectedness, we also give to agencies and organizations in Kent and beyond that serve those in need. January's special offering was selected by our religious education children and youth and is for the Portage County NAACP. The mission of the NAACP is to ensure the political, educational, social, and economic right of all persons and to eliminate racial hatred and racial discrimination. In the spirit of interconnectedness, with gratitude for the gift of one another in this community and the abundance that makes generosity possible, we now give and receive the offering as a sign of our shared commitment to the life and work of this congregation and beyond.
Far beyond the grasp of hands or light to meet the eye, past the reaches of the mind, there find the key to nature's harmony in an architecture so entwined. Like the birds whose patterns grace the sky and carry all who join in love expanding, the message of peace will rise in flight, taking the weight of the world upon its wings, in the oneness of everything. Peace is in the dance of trees who stir before the first breath of wind is yet perceived. Trust in the song becoming one with the dance, and all mysteries can be believed. Songs of lives long past that touch our own are written in the earth ever giving, and now to maintain the harmony gives to us all lives worth living, for the oneness of everything. Still we seek to find a truth that we might understand and reduce to terms defined, vast and immeasurable time and space, and so overwhelmingly designed. Oh, passing years, just might I know the faith that winters in the heart to be reborn again, to hear and to feel the pulse of life, and enters my soul as a song to sing of the oneness of everything.
Now, to bring our time of worship to its close, would you join me in extinguishing the chalice? We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. May we carry these in our hearts and minds until we are together again. These are the words of Emily Grossholtz. Imagination shoots the breeze with nature, and what they speak, mathematics, as they flirt, reveals itself surprisingly effective in science, a wrought gift we don't deserve or seek or understand. So let us just be grateful and hope that it goes on, although our joy is always balanced by our bafflement. And now, with eyes open to the wonder of our world, aware of our interconnectedness, and inspired by the possibilities we have shared this hour for life more abundant and our future as a community of hope and promise, let us go forth in love and in peace to continue inspiring love, seeking justice, and growing in community. May it be so. Blessed be. Amen.